announcement early this morning that the 76th annual Cannes Film Festival announced its lineup, and we are so excited because I am being joined right now by the lovely Emma Sasic, who's going to join me at this year's festival. Emma, how are you today?
I'm doing so good. How are you?
I am very excited because of
Woo!
this lineup. For those that don't know, this is not only Emma's first time going to Cannes, but also my first time as well. And for those of
First
you who don't,
timers.
yeah, right, first timers, truly. But for those of you that don't know who I am, I'm Matt Neglia. I'm the editor in chief at Next Best Picture. If you guys listen to the Next Best Picture podcast, I'm sure you know that already. But for those of you that are new to the YouTube channel, maybe you don't. So in any event, though, Emma and I woke up early this morning. We got the announcement of the lineup, and we got the competition, the Uncertain Regard, the out of competition, midnight screenings, special screenings, can premiere, and a short film announcement as well. Some of this we knew in advance already, while some of it was new to us, and some of it was also expected. And along with that, there were some titles that were missing that we were hoping that would show up. Not very many. I think though that what we got overall, like I'm pretty satisfied with it. I think if there had been maybe one, not two, I think there's one inclusion that if it was here, it would have been like an all-timer lineup. But even without that movie, poor things. It's still a really good lineup, I would say. Don't you agree?
I am. I'm really excited about this. There are certainly a lot of filmmakers and actors who I'm excited to see their next projects, to see how they fit into whatever genre, whatever role they're going to be in. And there are certainly a lot of new names on here for me. Either I haven't had a chance to discover their filmography in the past, or I just didn't know that the project that they're presenting was in existence. So it just seems like it's going to be a really good balance between, all right, let's see this next person's project versus let me discover maybe somebody who I'm about to fall in love with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to stand here and pretend that I know every filmmaker that's being listed here. I also will be first to tell you that international cinema is something that I myself have only started getting into like really heavily in the last couple of years of my life. And there is still so many filmographies and filmmakers that I have yet to discover. But that's part of the reason why we love something like Cannes or Berlin or any of these other international film festivals is it gives us an opportunity to discover those filmmakers, dive into their filmographies. And in the case of some of these feature films that are listed here, some of them are by first time filmmakers. So we'll be discovering new talent. I mean, look at last year's
Yes,
Cannes Film Festival, for example. We had Charlotte Wells' debut with After Sun. So you never know what you're going to get as a result of that.
definitely.
So looking at this first from, let's start off with the films that are not in competition. Because those lists are a little bit shorter here, right? So starting off with the films that are out of competition, we knew Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was coming to Cannes. That's the new film from James Mangold, first Indiana Jones film not being directed by Steven Spielberg. Harrison Ford's last time putting on the hat. Emma, are you a fan of the franchise? Have you seen the other films? Like, how do you feel knowing that this is one of the high profile, biggest films that will be at Cannes this year?
I was very scarred by these films as a child when I watched them and when I watched like the 80s, 70s version.
Like when
So
he
it's
rips the heart out of him, right? Yeah, that's what I
my
was thinking.
my dad always did the Anumani thing to me to just really like hone in how terrified I was of that movie. So, as a childhood trauma, I haven't revisited these films in a long time. I have to admit I didn't see the fourth film, just because, it kind of came and went for me. But I will definitely, no, not good. But because we do know that it's going to be coming here, it's actually going to be interesting for me to revisit these films to actually see what I think of them now as not a child and as not as scared of as I was as a child. So, I'm interested to see this one. This is going to be Harrison Ford's last venture as Indiana Jones from what I've heard. So, I'm I'm surprised, not surprised. I guess I'm eagerly awaiting to see what that final turn is going to be for him, which I'm sure it's going to be a little emotional.
Yeah, no, I would hope so. I want to get a send off like akin to something like what James Mango did with Logan. That would be
Yeah,
great. Or
yeah,
maybe even what Daniel Craig did with No Time to Die. If we can get something like that with this,
definitely.
I think this will be fantastic.
I agree.
Also, too, Probably the biggest, most high profile, uh, buzziest film of the entire, maybe even year. Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon premiering out of competition, although they have said that they desperately want Apple to reconsider and switch it to in competition. But for now, it
Oh.
is playing out of competition. And I imagine it's going to probably stay that way because I know that Cannes just has these rules in place with theatrical releases in France for it to be playing it in competition and stuff, and who knows what Apple plans are in more specific detail for theatrical rollout with this. But either way, we don't have a confirmed runtime yet. I know that's the thing that everybody's waiting on. Is it really 4 hours? Is it 3.5? Is it 3:15? Like, what's it going to be? But that was one that we also already knew.
Mhm.
We also knew in advance that the opening night film would be Jean Dubarry from Maiwan, which is starring Johnny Depp, which I know that it's like I'm going to have mixed feelings about this, Emma. I'm sure you will too, because it's going to be opening night. We're going to be super excited. Our first Cannes film in person, and it's
And it's
this.
this movie. I I'm interested to see if Johnny will be there. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm sure if he is there, he will be skipping the red carpet so that, or at least not bothering to take any interviews just
I was going to
because,
say he'll probably do the red carpet, but not the
right,
press conference, I
right,
imagine.
right. Actually, it's funny. I mean, he and his daughter will be at the festival for separate projects. So, I mean, in a different circumstance, that would be very sweet, but here we are.
And isn't it funny that the project involving his daughter, The Idol by
It's
Sam
also a
Levinson,
big thing, big mess.
those are like the two titles that everyone is like, what? No, like great lineup, but those two, we
But
don't want it.
oh,
Now, listen, I think Sam Levinson is very talented in terms of his actual technical filmmaking acumen and how he's able to craft a story. I'm just not a fan of the stuff I've just heard about, the environment he creates on set, and it
Mhm.
seems like that was something that has happened again here with The Idol. um Being that it's a series, I don't know, I'm less inclined to want to check it out personally, and just kind of wait for it to drop whenever it is dropping on I believe it's HBO, right, if I
I think
remember
so,
correctly.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not gonna probably rush out to see this one. Um, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it ends up
Right.
playing.
Right. I mean, today we've only just gotten the titles. We don't even know what the actual schedule is going to look like. So,
Yeah.
considering all of the movies that we have and want to watch and review, it might have to kind of take a little sidestep, but we'll see. You never know.
Then we have Cobweb from Kim Ji Woon. I don't know how familiar you are with this filmmaker's filmography, Emma, but the minute I saw this added here, I had two things cross my mind.
Mhm.
One, what is it about? And two, I need to see it because I like there's a film that Kim Ji Woon did called I Saw the Devil. Have you ever seen this movie before?
I haven't actually.
Okay, I don't recommend it. um I mean, like, I do recommend it, but at the same time it's a movie that you should probably watch on a empty stomach.
Ooh.
Um the
I have heard
Yeah.
that he is a bit of a gory director, kind of like really pushing the envelope.
He does some genre work. The Good, the Bad, and the Weird is another
Right.
project from him that has gotten a lot of notoriety over the years. He did this Arnold Schwarzenegger film I remember called The Last Stand a couple of years ago, which was highly bizarre. But Cobweb, though, is starring one of South Korea's most acclaimed actors in Song Kang-ho, from
Yeah.
Parasite and Broker fame and a bunch of others, I mean, over the years, but most recently those two projects. So that is one that I will be running to the cinema to go watch.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't really get a whole lot of information from the description either. It just says described as an experimental and genre-defying drama shot entirely on sound stages in support of a film within a film narrative.
Yes.
Sounds mystifying.
Yes, I'm there. Uh, the midnight screenings didn't actually jump out at me. I don't know if they did for you, but there was nothing in here this year that specifically leaped out at me as, oh, I need to make time to watch that. Except I do know that Acide by just Philip Putt. I hope I'm
Hmm.
saying that right. I know that that is based on a previous short film that's
Okay.
being made now into this feature, and that's really the only thing that I'm aware of from what I just know about this project is that it's like a
Hmm.
dystopian short that did fairly well, but there was nothing in the midnight section, like I said, that immediately like jumped out at me as, oh, I need to make sure that I'm free at 11 p.m. to go see
Right.
this.
Yeah, I really am unfamiliar with these titles in all honesty. So it might be something like you said, just kind of if
Mhm.
I have that time, why not check it out when in Cannes, as they say.
And I do want to apologize. We're not going to be able to go over like every single title here in great detail, but these are just our initial reactions to the lineup a few hours after it dropped earlier today. As you mentioned, though, offline to me, Emma, we also did get confirmation of Pedro Almodovar's short film, The Strange Way of Life, starring Ethan
Yes.
Hawke and Pedro Pascal. Sorry, it almost escaped me. And this is meant to be Pedro Almodovar's answer to Brokeback Mountain, from what I've been hearing.
Hmm. I am
Basically,
I'm
yeah.
really excited for this one just because you never really know with a Pedro Almodovar film what you're going to get. I mean, we're familiar with his work with Penelope Cruz and the really wonderful collaborations they've done. Certainly, the last few years we've gotten Parallel Mothers and Pain and Glory, and those have been really fabulous films from him that I've really, really enjoyed. And I think it'll be interesting to see what he does in a short film format. He's usually throwing a lot of different twists and turns at us in a 2 hour film. But here, I mean, he's limited to what, 20 minutes, 30 minutes or so.
Hmm.
I guess he'll define what the short film length will be. And I mean, if you have two hot actors, as in like big name stars, also probably attractive actors too, in Ethan Hawke and Pedro Pascal, I'm really curious to see how he paints them and directs them in this.
Well, I mean, his previous short film, The Human Voice from 2020, that had Tilda Swinton in it, and that was his
Mm,
first English language project that he had worked on. This is
hmm.
his second, so maybe he only feels comfortable working in the English language in short films. I'm not
Maybe.
sure exactly, but if this is going to be like an ongoing trend of we only see shorts from Pedro Almodovar in English and his features are all not, that would be actually pretty interesting. But I do think we are going to see the expected exquisite beauty that he imbues into his characters and also to his sense of framing and his shot selection, his use of color. I'm very much looking forward to what this can possibly be, this gay cowboy love story. So, outside of that, one other thing that did jump out at me immediately, in fact, my jaw hit the floor when I heard it, there's a special screening of a documentary from Academy Award winning director Steve McQueen, who
Yeah,
previously has done Widows, 12 Years a Slave. Last time he was at Cannes was with Hunger back in 2008, his feature directorial debut. And
it's
this
been a
here
long
is
time.
right. Like, well, he's been at other festivals in between.
Hmm. Hmm.
But this is a documentary, which here's why I freaked out when I first heard it. I thought it was Blitz, but with like a new title at first,
Oh, I see.
and I was like, "Oh my god, they've renamed it. It's called Occupied City." But then someone jumped out at me and said, "No, no, 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 no. It's a short.
It's a
Calm down.
documentary.
A doc, yeah." But hey, I still want to see what a Steve McQueen documentary looks like.
Definitely. I mean, he has brought not only 12 Years a Slave, but Widows, very two different movies to us. I'm excited to see what a documentary looks from him. And I mean, it's going to be on a very serious subject. It's about Nazi occupation during World War II. Is that right?
And it
Yeah.
sounds like it could have then thematic tie-in into Blitz, which is
Hmm.
hopefully coming out later this year. If not, maybe next year, but we'll have to wait and see.
Definitely.
So before I then move over to anything else in uncertain regard and competition, was there anything else, Emma, outside of those two, because they're much longer lists of films that stood out to you amongst the announcement today?
Well, I know that you mentioned that you're super excited for this Wim Wenders film that's going to be a special screening. Is that right?
Yeah, but he actually has two movies.
Two, yes.
Yeah, it's him, and it's also Chinese documentary filmmaker Wang Bing. Both of
Mm.
them have special screening films, but then they also have films playing in competition. So if you don't like one, maybe you'll like the other. But Wim Wenders is a filmmaker who I mean, Jesus Christ, where do you begin? There's the documentary Pina, there's Wings of Desire, Paris, Texas, Until the End of the World, The Salt of the Earth, Buena Vista Social Club. Like, this is a extremely revered director whose work has only grown in esteem over time. And I guess we can use this as a segue into the competition titles as well, because
Cool.
you know, I don't know much about his latest film, Perfect Days, but I knew that he was working on a project that I was hopeful would play here. So now
Mhm.
to get this confirmation that he will have a new film here, I mean, I don't really need to know who's in it. I don't need to know what it's about. I don't need to know anything. I just need to
I'm
know that
watching.
Wim Wenders. Yeah, exactly. So moving off of that, I mean, we could just go down the list here with competition, I suppose. Starting off first with Wes Anderson's Asteroid City, which once the trailer dropped, I think we all instinctively knew that, oh, June release, Wes has done Cannes before. This seems like this is probably going to happen.
Right.
And were you underwhelmed? Did you like the trailer? I never got your read on it.
Well, I was severely disappointed in The French Dispatch. As a journalist, I should have probably been somebody who was so excited for the film, and I really liked the format that it took in terms of being three feature stories, an obituary, and then like a little column, because very much what we do at newspapers.
Yeah.
But I have just been feeling that he is prioritizing style over substance with his films lately. Like, we get the quirky style, we get the perfect composition in the films in every single one of his films, and he's really honed in on that at this point. But I just feel like the stories have really lacked and just have been really lackluster. So I'm not really sure so far with Asteroid City. I mean, I could see that it was very much the quirky style again and like had Wes Anderson written all over it.
Mhm.
I'm just hoping and expecting a little bit more from the story this time, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that one.
Yeah, I have very similar thoughts. I'm pretty hot and cold on West. I go back and
Yeah,
forth a lot of
yeah.
times, so it's tough for me. I do agree that I think there has been more of a style over substance sort of style to his storytelling, but
Hmm.
at the same time, I have noticed that on rewatches, I like the films a little bit more than I do after that initial watch. So
Oh, okay.
maybe the same will be true here, and you know, I'm excited to just see that Wes is going to be there with a title at the end of the day.
Definitely.
Beyond that, we have Club Zero from Jessica Hosner, one of six female directors that are playing in competition this year, which is,
A
according to
record?
them, a record. Um, okay. I think I don't know. I'm hypothesizing here. I'm assuming that the internet will be content the day they get to 50% of the titles being men and women or over 50. I'm not saying that this is perfect. I'm not saying this is ideal. All I'm saying is each year they're adding more and we're trending in the right
Hmm.
direction. That's
Hmm.
all I'm saying. I'm not saying, that this is stop and this is all it should be. I'm just saying, hey, it is a record. Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing, but at the same time, you know what? Maybe in 2, 3 more years, we'll get this number to 10 or more. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I guess also like I would just hope at the end of the day that like it's not even like something that they have to track. Like, just give me
Right.
like amazing films from filmmakers of all genders, of all nationalities, all
Mm-hmm.
races, whatever it may be, because as we've seen, like people from all over the world can give us incredible stories, and it doesn't matter what language they're in or what genre it is. If it's a good story, it's a good story at the end of the day. And I mean, it's kind of crazy that a six is the record here, but I mean, I'm happy to keep seeing more women directors being included, people from Asian countries, African countries, all over the world. So just keep giving me more of that.
Exactly. This one is starring Mia Wasikowska, and it's about a teacher who takes a job at an elite school and forms a strong bond with her five students. It's a relationship that eventually takes on a dangerous turn,
Ooh,
and I've been hearing some really strong positive word of mouth about this one behind the scenes.
oh,
So
good.
definitely going to be one to look out for, I would say. But over to you. What's a title that you saw that also jumped out at you?
Well, so when I first watched Carol by Todd Haynes,
Mhm.
I wasn't very into it for whatever reason, but after I rewatched it, it's like I finally saw the light and I saw the beauty in his directing and his storytelling. So I am so excited to see May December starring Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore. I love those two actresses with all my heart. So I am just excited to see them on the screen together and to have them collaborate with Todd as well. I guess this film is about like, how is it described? Is it like these two women, like one of them is an actress and she's doing research for a role into the other one? Is that how it
Yeah,
was?
I believe so, but
Yeah.
I think they're married and it's about the
Okay.
dissolution of their relationship.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm excited about that. I mean, the what he did with Kate Blanchett and Rooney Mara with Carol and how like invested you got into that film and their relationship and just what each actress brought to the table was remarkable on second watch for some of us. Other people got that the first watch. So like I said, I just love Julianne and Natalie and I love what they bring to their films. So this is going to be one definitely to watch for me.
I would like to next point out Firebrand, which is starring Alicia Vikander, Eddie Marsan, and Jude Law.
Mm,
This is about Queen Catherine and Henry VIII's marriage. This is something that I don't know. I'm wondering, could it be like, the 2015 Justin Kurzel's Macbeth, which we saw with Marion Cotillard and Michael Fassbender a couple years ago. Could it be
hmm.
something radically different than that? This is a title that I think will probably have a bit of buzz behind it, given the listed names that are involved. So we'll have to wait and see if that's something that could. I'm sure it'll probably be picked up by a distributor if it hasn't been already. But we'll see what the word of mouth is on it out of the festival. I'm
Hmm.
sure with those names behind it, it wouldn't not have any trouble gathering distribution.
Yeah. Another one that I was really excited to see here was Monster by Koreeda.
Yes.
I know.
Did you watch
That
the
I'm
trailer?
I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I did not see any I did not have English subtitles on my
Mm,
trailer. However,
no, me neither.
yeah. Okay. So we're kind of basing it off of whatever it is, but it seems like a very like another Koreeda film in terms of like finding that human nature. I felt a lot of that with Broker from last year. So I kind of like the way he just kind of captures life and people and the way that they interact with each other. And this one kind of seems to deal with like a I guess it's like how do you go searching for the monsters in our world? And it kind of seemed like there was some story plot revolving around like a little boy being bullied, and those kinds of monsters that we have in our early childhoods. But I I don't know. I'm a big fan of his, so this one should be very exciting.
Yeah, very big fan as well. And watching that trailer, it definitely had a visual style to it and just an overall tone that felt different than what we've gotten
Hmm.
from him in recent years. So that left me very excited. I've already heard talk from others that they think it's a very heavy contender to win the Palme d'Or already.
Ooh.
Um, yeah, I know. So we'd have to wait and see in that regard. But another one that was brought up today, and it was mentioned, during the press conference that this could potentially be Ken Loach's last film. It's The Old Oak.
Oh,
This
okay.
is the story about the future for the last remaining pub, the Old Oak, in a village of northeast England, where people are leaving the land as the mines are closed. Houses are cheap and available, thus making it an ideal location for Syrian refugees. So, mixing some social commentary, as he always does, advocating for repressed and people that are just going through tough times financially, and in this case too, maybe politically, economically, socially, everything, all the above. So, well, I mean, I think that Ken is a filmmaker that he's not everyone's cup of tea. I totally get that. I think that his films, from a political point of view, can put a lot of people off, but he's still been a very prolific filmmaker over the course of many, many decades. And if this is indeed his final film, I'm just happy to be there to see it in that case.
Yeah. One more that I want to shout out that kind of really intrigued me was La Chimera by
Yes.
by Alice Rohrwacher.
Mm-hmm.
There's really not a whole lot said about this film, but it stars Isabella Rossellini and Josh O'Connor, and it just says that it's a group of archaeologists and the black market of historical artifacts. I am a big fan of both of those actors, so I am excited to see what goes into the lives of archaeologists and this black market, but I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of interesting twists and turns with it. And like we said, one of the female directors that are going to be represented at the festival this year. So I'm excited to see that.
I have a feeling that this is going to be something special,
Mm,
because I think that over the last couple of years, she's just been on a roll lately with Happy as Lazaro, and then
hmm.
last year with Le Pupille, which was nominated
Yeah.
for an Academy Award for Best Short. And here, I'll add two things to what you've already said. The plot synopsis I'm reading on Letterboxd says, set in the 1980s, the story will follow Arthur, who I assume is being played by Josh O'Connor, a young British archaeologist who gets involved in an international network of stolen artifacts.
Ooh.
And I've heard that this one is going to be distributed by Neon. So that
Okay.
already tells me
They
what I
have
need
a
to know.
great collection of films, so
Yep.
I'm so in right now.
Incoming banger. That's all I'm
Woo!
saying.
And I've been loving
Yeah.
seeing Isabella Rossellini take on like different roles in recent years. I mean, last year she voiced Grandma Connie in Marcel the Shell with Shoes On.
Yes.
So that was an interesting spin with her. And I heard in an interview that she's been like very much into environmental projects, and like she has a garden that she works on, which was featured in Marcel the Shell. So this seems like another film within her wheelhouse of interest. So that, I mean, once you have people working on something that they're interested in and passionate about, I mean, I feel like that translates really well on screen eventually too.
I think so, definitely. Speaking of passion that's on the screen, but maybe not as frequently as we would want, Jonathan Glazer returning after 10 long years since Under the
Yes.
Skin in 2013. Previous
Yes.
films before that were Sexy Beast and Birth. The Zone of Interest is the latest film. It is based off a novel of the same name by Martin Amis, and it was shot in Auschwitz. And we know it stars Sandra Hüller, who was in Tony Erdmann. And we just, I mean, what else do I know about this? I know it's A24. I know it was shot by Lukas Zal, who did Cold War, and I'm thinking of ending things, and Ida.
Mm.
So that's another just, sign me up. I don't even need to know what this is about. I'm sure I could dive into the novel to find out a little bit more information, but for
But it's
now,
okay.
I'm totally okay being in the dark on this one.
It does star somebody else. His name is Christian Friedel. He's a German actor who is in this one show that I really, really enjoy called Babylon Berlin. And he's a
Oh,
fabulous actor in that series. So I'm excited to see him take on this role too, because it seems like it might not be anywhere remotely close to the role that he plays in the show. So it might be like a total 180 for him.
yep, yep. So without, like I said, we're not going to go through every single title here. We're just talking about things that immediately jumped out at us, but we haven't really talked about anything in an uncertain regard. So if I could just throw out one more film before we toss it over to you for your final film, if you have a final call out or if you have any final thoughts, I do want to call attention to a film. Geez, what was it called again? I'm trying to remember now. It's going to come to me. The New Boy, directed by Warwick Thornton. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it was produced and it's starring Kate Blanchett.
My queen. That's my girl.
I mean, I don't need. Once again, it's kind of one of those things where it's like I don't need to know anything more than this.
I'm sold.
I'm there. I don't even know if she's the lead or if she's a supporting performance. I'm not sure. But I don't need to know much more than what we've been told in regards to that. But if there was more, this plot synopsis that I'm reading here says it depicts the mesmeric story of a 9-year-old Aboriginal orphan boy who arrives in the dead of night at a remote monastery run by a renegade nun.
Oh, please be the renegade nun.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking here.
Well, I am fine with Kate Blanchett in a leading and a supporting role, any role, because she knocks it out at the park every single time. That is my fave right there. I think I would say for myself, in terms of the uncertain regard category, there's a lot of first time filmmakers here that I'm
Yes.
very excited to be introduced to them, to see what they have. One title that is very interesting to me, How to Have Sex by Molly Manning Walker. Let's see what Manning Walker can tell us about that. But it seems like, I guess it seems like half of this category is made up of first time filmmakers. So that is pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, definitely. And one that's not a first time filmmaker that I'll just throw out as my final call out here is Thomas Cayley, who has a film called I believe the English translation is The Animal Kingdom.
Yeah.
And I saw that it was starring Adele Exarchopoulos, and it is about an adventure between a father and his son in a world where some humans have started mutating into animal species. It's a sci-fi film, so
Oh,
make of that what you will. We'll have to,
interesting.
once again, we're at a point where a lot of the time, whenever I head into a film festival and I don't know much about a project or don't know much about who's in it or the filmmaker behind it, I usually will wait for them to release the stills because the
Mm,
stills can tell you a lot about, just in terms of aesthetic,
yeah.
color, tone, you get
Style.
kind of a vibe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it helps. I mean, sometimes, you'll notice something is maybe going a little bit more of a darker route, or even something that could be a horror film that you didn't think was previously a horror film. There's a lot of tells sometimes when we get those official images.
Hmm.
I'm just curious to know what's going to be our like drive my car this year. Like, what's going to be a
Yeah.
film that is kind of unassuming. We don't really know much about it, but then all of a sudden it turns out to be this fantastic, great film that all of a sudden maybe potentially becomes a Best Picture nominee. Who
Hmm.
knows?
I mean, yeah, last year we had that with Triangle of Sadness, which won the Palme d'Or and then was
Yep.
nominated for 2, 3 Oscars this year. A few years before that, we had Parasite, which just took over the world and was just winning left and right, and certainly at the Academy Awards. So it's exciting that this is kind of the film festival that opens us up to potentials the remainder of the year, and to just kind of see firsthand what the 2023 cinema landscape is going to look like. So I'm so excited. I'm very excited to experience all of this with you. Thank you for having me to go do this with you. I'm thrilled.
Are you kidding me? Like, in terms of people that I would want to have with me on this experience, I mean, you are, and I've said this to you before, you are by far more than worthy of being able to come along this journey with me because I think your work is just extraordinary. You do a fantastic job with interviews, reviews. You're a fantastic person in general. So, absolutely, I
Thank
cannot
you.
wait for whatever adventures lie before us over in the south of France.
Oh,
And
my
then
goodness.
also too to note, this is not the end. We also have more announcements coming with regards to Critics Week, Directors Fortnight. There may be some other titles added to the lineup that haven't been at this moment. They alluded to just as much in the press conference. I wouldn't expect anything major, like something like Jeff Nichols' The Bike Riders, or Sofia Coppola's Priscilla, or as I mentioned earlier, Yorgos Lanthimos' Poor Things. I think if those were going to actually be a can, we would have heard about that today.
Hmm.
So I think those have set sail, and will probably be Venice, TIFF, Telluride, Bows.
But you never
Oh no,
know.
don't do that to me.
You never know.
All right, well, more to come, obviously. We have a little bit over a month. May 16th is when the festival starts, and
That's
I know we're
crazy.
flying out. I know, right? Isn't it insane how it's almost here?
Can't believe it.
But for those of you who are looking to follow us for coverage, I will be there. Emma will be there. Emma, thank you so much for joining me for this discussion. Why don't you tell everyone that's listening right now where they can find you on the internet?
Of course, thank you for having me as always. I can be found at Next Best Picture in terms of my reviews and interviews, but you can find me on Twitter at Emma_Sasic, and then Letterboxd and Instagram at Emma Sasic.
And you can find me at Next Best Picture. And thank you everyone for watching the channel. We understand it's still a new format, so we're still working out a lot of different things. I'm sure we'll go into this in depth on the podcast as well. But we really appreciate you taking the time to chat with Emma and I and listen to us react to this year's Cannes Film Festival lineup. More to come shortly. Until then, see ya.
Bye-bye.